For context, my mom at the time was working 40 to 50 hours a week, so while on vacation from school, I was responsible for watching my younger sister. I was a high school junior at this time, and I had babysitting experience, so I decided, why not? I didn't get paid to watch my little sister, but she was a relatively good kid, so it wouldn't be a hassle. Before my mom went to work, she gave me the normal rules and told me to make sure I keep an eye on my little sister. I shrugged her off and sat on the couch to watch some TV. My little sister raced down the stairs 15 minutes later and asked me if she could go next door to collect some old dolls our neighbor promised her. It was a sweet old lady who was about 65 and had grandkids me and my sister's age. I told her yes, and to be back in 5 minutes, to which she put on her sandals to retrieve the dolls. At this time, my little sister had a habit of leaving the door open. I didn't mind most of the time because it was hot and we lived in a safe public neighborhood. There was slim to no crime in our neighborhood, and everyone knew everyone else. That being said, if you do something bad, your parents will know about it within the hour. Now, I know you're listening to this and thinking about how dumb it is to leave the door open, but like I said, we lived in a public place. While my sister was next door, I decided to use the restroom. We have 2 bathrooms, one half bathroom downstairs for guests and one full bathroom upstairs. While I was in the bathroom downstairs, I could hear my sister slamming the door closed and walking up the stairs to her room. I finished up, flushed, washed my hands, then sat back on the couch to watch TV. Curious to what my sister got, I called her name. No answer. Just a muffled rustling of toys. I decided to leave her alone and turn my attention back to the TV. I was so into the show I was watching, I didn't notice my little sister standing across from me. It didn't click for me that I hadn't heard her come downstairs. I just stared at her, annoyed. She kept staring at me. I paused the TV and asked her what she wanted. She looked at me wide-eyed and told me someone was upstairs. I laughed at her and told her that wasn't funny. She was still visibly scared. I thought she was joking. I asked her if she came back home a few minutes ago and she said no. She said the door was closed and pointed to the disregarded box of dolls by the back door. I walked into the kitchen and called my dad to come over and grabbed a big knife from the kitchen drawer. Walking back into the living room, I told my little sister to go into the bathroom and lock the door behind her. I told her not to open it until I told her Mom's home, so she would know it's me. I crept up the stairs and peeked into each room until I got to my little sister's door. It was cracked open, and toys and clothes now littered her normally organized room. I didn't wait. I kicked open the door and flicked on the light. My blood turned cold. In my little sister's rocking chair sat a little old woman rocking back and forth with a plastic baby doll. I stepped further into the room and demanded she get the fuck out of my house. I wasn't raised to curse at adults, but this was a strange woman in my little sister's room. She stopped rocking and started to hum the tune to a baby lullaby. The most terrifying part wasn't that she was pretending the baby was real. It was the unnatural smile stretched across her wrinkled face. She stood up and giggled on the way out and down the stairs. I stood there, staring at her room, trying to see if anything was missing. I didn't even notice that she took the doll with her. I walked back downstairs and checked the room before letting my little sister know she can come out after I locked the doors. By then, my dad was pulling up in the driveway up front, and I told him what had just happened. He walked around and checked the rooms like I had. While he was upstairs, my little sister told me the old lady knew where she had been and tried to get her to come with her. The creepiest part was my sister told me she sounded like she was attempting to sound like me, but when she didn't say Mom's home, she stepped away from the door. I don't know who that was that walked into my house to steal my little sister's doll, but let's not meet. This happened like 2 years ago. It might not be that bad, but I still get nightmares about it. Also, English is not my native language, and this is my first time posting here, so please bear with me. I was in 8th grade that time, and I go to this big public school near my house. It was my first day and all, so the teacher assigned me to sit next to a boy who looked nice and outgoing, let's call him Dan. So I took a sit there, and he was chatty, asking me about my name, age, etc. He was really friendly and normal. After a few days of sitting next to him, I felt this bad vibes around him, but I never really gave it that much thought. Then after 2 months of sitting next to him, he was trying all sorts of things to get closer to me, and I was uncomfortable with his actions, but I didn't confront him. I know, I was naive and not good with confrontations. But John, my guy friend, was assigned to sit next to us. Now I'm sitting in the middle of Dan and John. So John and Dan grew close, and I had no problems with that. Then John was going to eat lunch with us when he brought Dan with him. I was surprised that Dan was now tagging along with us, which he never did before. But I never paid any attention to it, so Dan took a sit next to me. Not next to John, but to me. I was a little confused, but as a naive 14-year-old girl, I brushed it off. But that's when things get a little creepy. He started moving closer to me, like he was trying to let our bodies touch. But as a Catholic girl, I was told to stay my distance with boys. So I moved a little away from him now, but he didn't stop. He kept doing that. That's when my friend told me she needed assistance in the bathroom and that I should go with her. I frantically accepted it. Turns out my friend noticed how creepy he was. But I still didn't do anything about it. I thought maybe he was just having a crush on me. But I kept my distance at him, and that's when he started to really get creepy. One day, I had gotten very sick and couldn't go to school. So I stayed home and just watched some TV and even checked my Facebook, and that's when I saw it. Dan has sent me a friend request, which I never accepted, and some messages request. I was curious, so I opened it, and there was hundreds of messages from him. He was asking why I was not at school and what happened to me. He was also getting mad and cursing at me. He also said that I was a bitch for ignoring his messages. All those 100 messages were sent the same day. I felt sick to my stomach. I have never experienced this, but I didn't told my parents because I was scared that they wouldn't allow me to go out with my friends anymore. I was stupid, sorry. And that night I was still pretty shaken up of what he did. When I received another new message from him, and that message still haunts me to this day. Hey, I hear you were sick. Sorry for getting mad at you. I just thought you were avoiding me. So feel better and drink your medicine. I know you haven't eaten dinner yet, so please, eat dinner so you can feel better, then I can see you again at school. That sent chill all over my body, because I haven't told anyone I was sick, and my parents didn't tell anyone either, not even my own teacher. And the fact he knew I hadn't eaten dinner yet was so weird because it was 11 p.m. and people usually eat at 8. I suddenly felt like I was being watched, so I closed my curtains. I still didn't tell my parents because I was making myself believe that maybe that was just a coincidence. I got better and was on my way to school. I didn't want to sit next to him anymore, but that wasn't an option because my teacher was pretty strict when it comes to the seating arrangement. I was walking to school when I see him walking behind me. A sick feeling came to my stomach again. I just fastened my pace, and he did the same. I was so scared, but finally I reached the school entrance and ran, and I saw my friend and told her everything. She advised me to stay away from him, and I did. But that didn't stop him. That's when Valentine's Day arrived. Our school made big deal about Valentine's Day, so they canceled all the class that day, but still asked us to go to school and made us wear red clothes. I just wore black jeans and a red plain shirt with a black cardigan, nothing really fancy. But then I get a message from him asking if he could take a picture of me and print it so he can watch it while he falls asleep. He sent it with a winky face. I didn't know what that meant, so I just ignored him again. But I saw him staring at me while touching his private part. I was so weirded out that I reported him to our teacher, but they didn't do anything. So my friends just made sure that he stays away from me. When a guy gave me chocolates and flour because they liked me, Dan threw angry glares at me, but I ignored him again. So when I was on my way to our classroom to get my bag because I left it there, I saw Dan sitting there. His face was blank. We were both alone in the classroom because our classmates were busy at the gymnasium. I was so scared, but I take out a brave face and walk to my bag. He saw me and screamed, "You're a slut like your mother. Why won't you like me back? God wants us to be together." I was so scared that I freeze at my spot. He was looking at me, and I was feeling like I was going to die. But he stormed off, and I was relieved. I left after that and cried in front of my friends. And that was the last straw because I told my parents and they reported him. But the school just said they were going to talk to him, which they never did because he didn't show up at class the next day. We heard he quit school and was working at a small convenience store near school. But that's not the end, because he made a fake account with his name, but his picture was me. He sent me another message, a screenshot of his phone, and the wallpaper was me. But the picture that he sent me was not familiar with me. I never took that picture. It was shot from my window while I was sitting in my bed studying. I had my earphones on. I was wearing a large shirt with no bra and just a short. He captioned it with "I hope to lay next to your bed." I was really freaked out that I cried. I told my mom about it, but she told me to just block it because we were going to move out of that town in a few weeks. And so I did. But he couldn't take the message. A year after the incident, I was now in the 9th grade, but we didn't move because there was a problem in the new house. That's when he created another fake account with my friend's John name and picture on it. And I accepted it because John was talking about creating a new Facebook profile a week ago, so I assumed that it was him. Now Dan, who was pretending to be John, messaged me and said, "I just want to explain. I dropped out of school because of you. I told my parents that we broke up and that I can't stand seeing you. I'm also sorry for shouting at you that day, but I want us to get together to have lovely sex and children's. If you can't like me back, it's fine to me. Just don't block me again because I think I will kill myself if you do that, okay? Love you." I was confused at first because I thought John was messaging me, but it sank into me. This was Dan. I immediately got so sick in my stomach that I vomited on my toilet. I was so scared of what my next move is, because if I block him, he can actually kill himself based on his mental state. Instead of blocking him, I asked my parents to reach out to his parents, and they did. His parents were so embarrassed, and they apologized to us, through text of course. I heard he was now at a mental facility getting the help he needs, and me, well, we moved out and I cut all my connections with Dan. I started a new life. Now I take caution to whom I should be friends to. So to the guy who stalked me, let's not meet again.